Championships are in the details. And that's why the Detroit Pistons are the team they are, and the Orlando Magic are the team they are. Today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is March 1st. It will be March 2nd, 2026. My name is Philip Rosenreich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season, coming today from the Kia Center. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, another second half collapse, another frustrating, mistake-filled half that cost the Magic the opportunity to steal a win from a team ahead of them in the standings, and more lessons learned about why the Magic are the team that they are. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day by being one of our Orlando Magic dailies, our everydayers who listen 5 days a week, who make us part of your regular podcast rotation, make us your first listen of the day. We want to thank you again for helping make the Locked On Magic community such a great and growing community. We want to thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. The Detroit Pistons are really good. There is no shame in losing to the Detroit Pistons. Just like there's no shame in losing to the Houston Rockets. It's a really good basketball team. And yes, the Miami Heat got a win over Houston. That's why they picked up a game. That's why they're tied in the standings. Tonight was one of the games in hand for the Magic in the Heat. So the Magic now only 2 games in hand against the Heat. Those other games are Minnesota and then I believe Atlanta later on. Minnesota and Atlanta coming up in the next 2 weeks. So we're going to know where we're at with the Miami Heat very, 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 very soon. And yes, there's a game against Miami in that process as well. Today's not about the standings, though. It's not about the standings. Winning or losing this game wasn't as important as how the game played out. I was not going to be willing to predict the Magic were going to win this game. Look, Detroit's a really good basketball team. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league. They've got an MVP candidate in Cade Cunningham. They are a team that looks connected and looks really together. Listen to my friend Kuka Heel on Locked On Pistons. He does a great job on Locked On Pistons. He is secretly a Magic fan. We're gonna bring him over to our side here in a minute. But he is someone that eagerly wants the Magic to be a rival for this Pistons team too. There's a lot of things to like about both these teams, and these were 2 teams that were supposed to rise at the same time. They were 2 teams that were supposed to be fighting each other in the Eastern Conference Finals, if not this year, then next year, then the year after, then the year after, then the year after. We are not done seeing this Detroit Pistons team, and we are going to be dealing with them and reckoning the next 6-7 years, as long as this Magic team is competitive. But there is a clear difference in how these teams have grown and grown up over the last 2 years. Jamie Bickerstaff said it pretty plainly, and Jamal Mosey is a good friend of his, before the game, that injuries are a really big factor. Like one of the reasons the Pistons are where they are is they've been healthy all season. They haven't had to deal with any major injuries or many major absences. The Magic, their main guys have not played together. And that was something even Desmond Bane said in the locker room after the game as we asked, like, why hasn't this team brought it together? Like there is no dancing around. The injuries have played a factor. But there is still this level of detail, this level of execution, this level of being so in tune with what you're doing and trusting what you're doing and trusting your teammates. And then having a star, or in cases, multiple players or multiple stars who can make things happen and make a tough shot that breaks another team, that breaks your opponent's back, or that stops the bleeding. For the second straight game, This was about the Magic collapsing. And like against Houston, it started with the other team deserves their credit. And Detroit's such a good defensive team. They put the Magic in a box. They put them in tough spots. They put them in tough quarters. They made it difficult for the Magic to get out and to get into the paint and touch the paint and feel what they needed to feel to be successful. The Pistons deserve a lot of credit for holding the Magic to 35 second half points. Just as Orlando's defense deserves credit for holding the Pistons to 106. I am not going to complain about the Magic's defense tonight. The Magic's defense has largely been doing its job for the last month. Let's say last month, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever you want to say. The last month, the Magic are back to playing, maybe not elite Magic level defense, but they are playing very in tune defense. But that's not everything. That's not the whole game here. At the end of the day, when teams and elite teams, look, if the Magic want to win championships, and this is not a championship year for Detroit, but not for Orlando. If the Magic want to win championships, they're going to have to be able to execute against elite defenses. Thing that helps them get over the top, that helps them calm down, stops runs, an easy shot somewhere. And the fact is, Detroit against a tough defense, I'm going to pull up here in a sec, against a tough Magic defense that gave up only 102.9 points per 100 possession, one of the best defensive games of the season for the Orlando Magic. Against a tough defense, the Pistons found little ways to score. They found little ways to go up, to stay in the game. And in two critical junctures in the second half, the Magic didn't have that. There are two runs in this game that decided things. I believe the Pistons went on an 11-0 run to take a 10-point lead in the third quarter. They also went a 14-2 run in the fourth quarter that turned a tie game into game over. As the 14-2 run was the clinching run in that fourth quarter. And that 14-2 run specifically, it's tied at 83. And we're going to talk about timeouts here in a minute because I know everyone loves to talk about timeouts. 83-83, the Pistons score two straight points. Jamal Mosley calls a timeout. Orlando comes out of the timeout, misses an open three. Pistons come down, get a tough shot from Cade Cunningham. Next possession, I believe the Magic missed another open three. Pistons get a basket. 8-point game. Next possession, Paolo Banchero called for an over and back. Just like against Houston, the Magic couldn't stop the bleeding. The Magic couldn't slow the other team down. They couldn't find that one thing they could rely on. And we'll talk individual players here, but so much of this is on your star player, on Paolo Banchero. For this game, for the Pistons, it was Cade Cunningham getting to a spot, making a tough shot, but making a tough shot. It was Tobias Harris. Eventually, the Pistons recognized that the Magic had Jalen Suggs on Tobias Harris. They put Tobias Harris in the mid-post and said, go get a bucket, and he went and got buckets. I think he had 8 points in the third quarter alone. He finished with 23. Former Magic man, haunting his team. As we all know, he loves to haunt his former teams, and he's got a lot of them. It's not even just the shot-making details. Like, I'm going to tell you, the difference is details. The difference is when you have the chance to beat a team, to go up 10, to go up 12, to go up 15, you have to take it. And so consistently, the Magic don't have that, whether it's killer instinct, they don't have that ability to execute. Orlando led by 7 at the half. They were playing as well as you could hope for. Their defense was locked in. Great defense. They were moving the ball. They were getting to the foul line. They were putting pressure on the defense, spreading the floor, getting open threes, making open threes for the most part. The Magic had the Pistons right where they wanted them, up 57-50. And yet, it felt like the Magic needed to be up by 12. It felt like there were 5 points left on the board, whether it was missed free throws, missed layups, missed opportunities. When a good defense like the Pistons give you room to breathe, you got to take it. And Orlando went 16 for 34 in the paint. Only 34 field goal attempts in the paint. They gave up 66 points in the paint. Only 34 field goal attempts in the paint. That tells me the Magic weren't getting downhill enough. And look, with no Anthony Black in this game, with Jalen Suggs at kind of half speed, with the size that the Pistons were throwing at Desmond Bane, the Magic didn't have anything simple. It's been unfortunate to say this, but for the last 2 games, players, whether it's Tristan da Silva tonight, Desmond Bane in the locker room tonight, players said the Magic went away from what worked. They went away from the things that got them the lead. And those are the details. Look, 19 turnovers for 26 points against any team, let alone an elite team, is not going to cut it. The Magic were up 7, and it still felt like they were climbing uphill. That's what an elite team does. I said this a million times during the tanking years. You have a small margin for error. When you're a good team like Detroit, you have a wide margin for error. And let me tell you, Detroit did not look at all bothered, frustrated, or angry to be down 7 at the half. That's a team that knew they were coming back. The Magic, they felt like a team that still needed more to happen, that they left something on the table, and that it was going to come back and bite them. That's why the Pistons are where they're at, and why the Magic are where they're at. It's all about the details. It's all about making sure that the details work for you. I want to talk then about the timeout conundrum, because it's not just about a coach calling a timeout. Let's talk about why the Magic didn't respond for a second straight game when the coach did call the right timeout, coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of... Check if I can find my thing here. I think my camera went out again. I think we're back. Sorry, my camera went out again. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you over at BetterHelp. March is a time to celebrate women, especially around International Women's Day, and to recognize just how much they carry at work, in relationships and families, and in all the unseen roles they step into every single day. We're here to celebrate women's strength. So give your mom a big hug, give her a call. She loves that. Give your sisters a big hug. Give your significant others, your wives, your daughters. They go through so much. And it's on us to make a space for their emotional well-being. Whether it's for yourself to work on your issues, or whether it's to support a family or friend, whether they're a woman or not, therapy is one way to help make space for someone. Everyone deserves support, and therapy can help create balance and offer a space to focus on themselves. With more than 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served worldwide, BetterHelp makes getting started simple. You fill out a short questionnaire, they match you with a licensed therapist, and if it's not the right fit, you can switch at any time. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day, and thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't done so already, go check out our Everydayer Club. In the Everydayer Club, you get to interact with me on the Locked On Discord server, with a special Locked On Magic channel for Magic fans, growing community. I post my 3 thoughts after every quarter. In that space, it is completely private. It does not go on my public feeds. You can also check out an ad-free audio feed of this podcast. You can check it out again at lockedonmagic.supercast.com. That's lockedonmagic.supercast.com. Let's make one thing clear. Let's set some ground rules before we have this discussion. There's a lot of blame to go around for where the Magic are at and why they are where they are. Certainly, I think we could all sense that this is a very talented team, and this is a team that has left something on the table and left something on the court this year. This is a team that has not performed to their own internal expectations, let alone the expectations fans have had. And part of what we're going to do in the offseason is have a clear reckoning of what happened and what needs to change. I know it is very easy and convenient to blame the coach. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Jamal Mosley is without blame. I'm not going to sit here and say that, no, the Magic should stick with him and he's a fine coach. I think he's a really good coach, and I think he's been really, really good for this team. But certainly it feels like there are problems that have persisted year over year that it's either time for this team to grow up on, or they just need a new voice or a new approach to addressing those problems. And shooting is certainly one of them. The offense and the offensive consistency is certainly one of them. There is plenty to break down on that front. Tonight is not a night to draw grand conclusions. Like, the only conclusion I think we can draw tonight is to say, like, yes, the Magic are not a championship level team right now. As constructed, as health-wise, as whatever, they are not a championship level team. We were in the post game after the game, and players are talking about, hey, we need to do what works more consistently. We need to touch the paint. We get too rattled. We get a little excited. We try to get it all back in one sweep. That's something Desmond Bane said in the locker room as the coach is reminding him, like, hey, chip away at it. We cannot get this deficit down in one shot, in one play. It has to be about kind of pounding the rock, and eventually it'll break. It is concerning that we're here for a second straight game. Again, even against an elite team, that the Magic had a lead, played really well for two and a half quarters, and then kind of gave the game away, that they can't sustain strong offense. Like they have a bad quarter. They have a bad offensive quarter every game. Remember back during the tanking days when I said, like, oh, this team can play about 40 minutes, and it's those 8 minutes where I'm not sure what's going to happen, and the good teams pummel you in those 8 minutes, and that's it. This is a team right now that plays about, let's say, 44, maybe 43 good minutes, and there are 5 minutes every game where it's just like, I don't know what's going to happen in those minutes, and what happens in those minutes is what's going to decide games. That is unsustainable, and that is unsustainable for the quality of players on this team, and that is unsustainable certainly for the payroll that this team is going to be worth after this season. The Magic have to be better. I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. But to blame all of this on the coach is, I think, very short-sighted. Because for the second straight game, like, and again, who knows what fans really know about coaching and decision-making and these strategies and all that. Like, yeah, maybe Mosley called the timeout a little bit late after the Pistons took the lead for the first time of the game in the third quarter. But he certainly called it early in the fourth. 83-83, Pistons get 2 baskets. He calls timeout, gets Paolo Banchero back in, gets the team's best player back in the game. And they still collapse. Same thing happened against Houston. 19-point lead cut down to 12. Jamal Mosley calls the timeout early. He sticks with his starters, which he should, and the thing continues to snowball. Maybe there is a problem where the team is not quite responding to the message the coach is getting. There's a problem, and so I think it's certainly the case too, that there's just, the personnel is just not there to perform. Paolo is just not in a state to be a star player, to be the kind of guy that carries your team night in and night out against elite competition. This is not last year's Paolo Banchero. I think Paolo can get back to last year's Paolo Banchero. I think this is a 1-year blip on his radar, and maybe it'll take 2 years for him to get back to that level because it just takes time to rebuild. It's a whole lot easier to destroy than it is to rebuild. So, again, I'm not here saying we need to abandon the project. But at the same time, it's clear something is still not clicking. And look, whether you like it or not, Jamal Mosley is going to be the coach for the rest of the year. I do not see the Magic changing coaches. And I honestly, I've said this before, I don't think changing does anything. The problem is if there is a problem with the offense, and there is, it's better. It's not good enough. They scored 35 points in the second half tonight. That's not good. That's nowhere near good enough against any team, let alone a championship level team. And it won't be good enough when they get to the playoffs against championship level teams where they have to play Detroit or Boston or New York or Cleveland. Those are the four. Like those are the four you're going to face in the first round. Who do you want? Who do you think the Magic can beat? Who can the Magic? That's the debate. That's the question. It's just not good enough, and it's systemic and it's systematic. Look, there are things Mosley needs to do, and I've said this before. Like he's got to find a way to get Powell the ball in easier locations. And with Anthony Black out tonight, and Jalen Suggs and the shape that he's in, we'll get to individual games here in a minute. The Magic just do not have enough guys who can take you off the dribble. Powell had 9 turnovers tonight. And some of them were because he got stuck because he drove in too deep and he's trying to pass instead of shoot because he don't have the confidence in a shot. That's a problem. You need your best player to be willing to shoot. Paolo had 10 field goal attempts. Now, he had 16 free throws, so that's really 18 field goal attempts if you want to get technical. But we're probably at a point where they need to have Paolo to take 25 shots and just live with the results. Or he needs to have the mindset that he's going to take 25 shots. That was my problem with Paolo in the fourth quarter on Thursday. So I felt like he was passive. I felt like he was trying to pass shots, and I'd rather him take and miss shots and be aggressive than pass and turn it over or pass and put guys in weird spots. And look, credit the Pistons. Second half, they doubled him hard and dared anybody else to beat them. Anybody else. And no one else could beat them because there are problems on this roster and on this personnel. Like I said, no one should be overreacting or drawing like sweeping conclusions about the Magic after a game against the Pistons. Like this is the best team in the Eastern Conference. And frankly, it is not close. Like, will they perform in the playoffs? I think their shooting is going to be a little bit of a question mark. I think they do need another ball handler outside of Cade. I think one of the reasons the Magic were able to take the lead is they really bottled up Cade. Cade ended up with 5 turnovers. I think all 5 were in the first half. The Magic did some really good stuff defensively on Cade Cunningham and made life really hard for him. He still ended up with 29 points. He was 11 for 25 from 4, 2 for 9 from 3. He had to work for all 25 of those points for the most part. I have no, like, just like I honestly had no problem with the defense on Kevin Durant on Thursday. The Magic did a job to make the star work. Like that's all you ask for. And again, like Paolo just isn't playing at that level. I think he can. I want to repeat that. I think Paolo can be that level of a star where a 29 point game. But he's not at that level right now. And frankly, like with Franz out, with AB out, with Suggs struggling, we got a bad Desmond game. We were probably due for one. The Magic don't have enough juice to compete. And so again, like this loss is not the end of the world. I saw people who are just overreacting. The Magic needed to play better. They didn't play well enough. They made mistakes. They let mistakes compound. They let a good team beat them up. Pistons waited for the Magic to make mistakes tonight. If the Magic didn't make mistakes, the Magic win this game. Like the Magic are good enough to do that. The Pistons weren't playing well enough to take the game. They needed the Magic to make mistakes to win the game and to win the game running away. And even if the Magic didn't make mistakes, it'd probably be a tight game, probably be a 5 or 6 point game. But that's where the Magic are at. They don't have enough to compete at this high level. And so, yes, we can nitpick timeouts and nitpick how games are managed. But at the end of the day, like, you got 14 points off your bench. 14 points. You got 4 for 13 3-point shooting from Jalen Suggs. How many of those were open? A lot of them weren't good shots. There's a lot of rushing and settling. You got some of your best players making your biggest mistakes. And so, like, you could change coaches in the offseason. I don't think that's a crazy thing to do, and it feels like that's the direction we're heading. But there's a lot of personnel problems too. And so, like, if you're blaming the coach without looking at the players, because the coach has done all he can. Last 2 games, he called timeouts when he was supposed to call timeouts. He tried to settle his guys down. And if they're not going to settle down, they're not going to win. Like I said in the first segment, it's about details. And if your players aren't playing with detail, they're going to lose to good teams. And they're going to lose, certainly, in the playoffs. Let's run through the box score, rip off the rest of the Band-Aid. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. College basketball is non-stop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night from early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts. There's always action on the board. It is, after all, Free Throw Awareness Month. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your boat. UCF making the NCAA tournament, Florida Gators being the number 1 seed. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. It is everybody's favorite basketball time of year. It is March. That means the tournament is right around the corner. So go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I'll be making this ad read, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs takes the stress and time out of your job search. So when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Let's run through the final box score as the Orladno Magic fall to the Detroit Pistons 106-92. Again, I want to repeat this. I didn't even realize these numbers before I got on here. The Magic had a 102.9 defensive rating. 102.9 defensive rating. I would bet that is among the top 5 defensive ratings of the season. The Magic are largely defending at the level that they want to. They did a good job forcing turnovers. They forced 13 turnovers. They got 14 points off those turnovers. So again, left some points on the board there. They held the Pistons to 4 for 30 shooting from 3. Did a great job. They chased Duncan Robinson around. He always kills the Magic. He was 0 for 4 from 3. Pistons shot just 45.2% from 4. They had 13 offensive rebounds, got 12 second chance points. So they defended the second chance points well, 4 for 11 on second chance points. Gave up some points in the paint, 66 points in the paint. But largely, again, like the Magic have been deploying a switching scheme for a good chunk of the year, for a good chunk of the last month. And I don't know if it's going to work in the playoffs as effectively as it's working now, but they put Paolo on Cade Cunningham. They kind of switched every screen with that. But I thought Paolo did a great job initially on Cade. Wendell Carter, I thought, did a good job defending Cade. I just generally thought Orlando did a good job putting Cade in tough spots and making him really work. Now, he hits some tough shots. He's going to do that. He's an elite player. Elite players do that. And again, that's what Paolo's missing right now is he's just not hitting those tough shots that elite players have to hit that just, crush your spirit and crush your soul. This is what the Magic are missing. And again, like they're doing the right thing. Now, again, Detroit adjusted and Detroit, put Tobias Harris on the block against Jalen Suggs, and Tobias Harris just crushed him in the block. And again, it's not for lack of trying. Jalen Suggs tried. It's just size. And so the Magic are ultimately playing smaller than they want to play. Again, remember, I say this a lot. If I don't, I'm going to say it now. the theory of the case for the Magic, what the Magic are trying to build here is they have 2 6'10" wings who play like guards in Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. And that is very hard to match up with, because if you're Detroit, do you want to start Thompson on Paolo or do you want him on Franz Wagner? Well, if you can't have one or the other, you got to have Tobias Harris on the other. You got to have Jalen Duren on the other. You got to figure out who you're going to use your best defender on, and the Magic can attack whoever the other guy is. And that's the theory of the case. And again, that's a big piece of why the Magic are struggling and have been so inconsistent, especially against elite defensive teams, is they could put all their attention on Paolo Banchero. So I want to say this about Paolo's game. I thought Paolo did a lot of really good things tonight. Again, he finishes with 24 points, 11 rebounds. He did have only 2 assists. He's 5 for 10 from the floor, 13 for 16 from the foul line. So getting plenty of touches, especially he had, I believe, 14 of those 16 free throws in the first half. So he's getting downhill, getting to the basket, forcing the Pistons to foul him and forcing them to adjust to him. I think in the second half, he slowed down a little too much. Detroit did a little bit of a better job doubling him on the perimeter because he's their only ball handler. Again, just the Magic just don't have enough guys who are threats to attack off the dribble. Because he's their only ball handler, Detroit's able to collapse and double him. They're able to really surround him and pressure him and make life really, really hard on him. Paolo had 9 turnovers, and he had 4 of them at the half, 5 of them in the second half. It's just hard. And look, Detroit put a lot of pressure on him. I don't think he was particularly sharp handling the ball. And he made mistakes. And again, like it's just hard when your best player is making mistakes like this. Could Paolo have taken a few more shots and not tried to make some passes that he tried to make? Absolutely. There are just times when he got deep in the paint and picked up his dribble and didn't know what to do with it. And that's a part of his game he has to clean up and should be gone by now. Like, again, he should have the confidence, like, oh, I'm driving, I'm scoring. If I'm going to pass it, it's going to be a late decision. It feels like he's pre-deciding what he's going to do. And so when he gets stuck and he doesn't know what to do. Again, like I said this after Thursday's game, I'd rather lose on him missing shots. Like be inefficient. Like I want him aggressive, because more often than not, because his instinct is to do the right thing. And again, like I've been super critical of him this year. I think he's picked up his defensive energy, which I absolutely love. Like this team is defending really well because Paolo is defending really well, and he's taken on this responsibility and this challenge. And again, he's not perfect at it, but because he's accepted this responsibility, because he's setting that tone, everybody else is stepping up with him. That's what I've been asking for all year, and I think Paolo has hit that mark. Now, offensively, because he doesn't trust his jumper, because like things just haven't developed the way that he needs them to develop, he is passing up opportunities to score. And again, like it feels like he's afraid to miss. And that just can't happen. Like that cannot happen with your best player. And so like Paolo admitted after the game, like, yeah, there are probably some opportunities there where I should have shot the ball when I didn't. And that's sort of where we're at with Paolo. Generally, I thought this was a good Paolo game. Like I think first half was a great Paolo first half. Against a good defense, making things happen. Defense is reacting to him. He's attacking quickly. Second half was bad Paolo. Defense was forcing him into things, forcing the ball out of his hands. Ball wasn't getting back to him. Wasn't kind of moving to get the ball back and in spots where he could score. Wasn't attacking quickly. Pistons kind of got him where they wanted him. And again, like say what you want about Paolo and the inefficiency and the on-off numbers. Fact of the matter is, since like January 1st, the Magic have like a 103 offensive rating when he's off the floor. Even looking at this game, and he played obviously most of the minutes, the Magic finished with a 91.1 offensive rating. They had 81.3 when Paolo was on the floor. So again, he was on the floor for a lot of the problems, but it was. I still think he did more good than bad. Like honestly, I still think there was far more good than bad. And again, things are still trending in the right direction, and whatever problems that he had this year offensively are not going to get fixed till the offseason. And so it's just about how do we make the most, how do we make things easier for him? And that is on coaching to make it easier for him. And the roster isn't helping because they need him to create and they need him to be the instigator and the generator. And they just don't have enough, because if you look at the rest of the team, like this was such a rough game outside of Tristan da Silva, everything was just rough for the Magic. Tristan da Silva had 19 points on 8 for 13 shooting, 3 for 6 from 3, 6 rebounds. Really nice game from Tristan da Silva. He was aggressive when he had to be aggressive, took shots when he had to take shots. Again, just a breath of fresh air. But again, everybody else, like, woof. Desmond Bane did finish with 17 points, 5 for 14 shooting, 1 for 3 from 3, only 3 3-point attempts. He had 2 in the first half. 6 for 7 from the foul line, 7 assists, which was good. Was able to get the ball moving. 5 rebounds. He also had 2 turnovers. Everyone in the Magic starting lineup had at least 2 turnovers. Like that's 10 turnovers right there. And then you add Paolo's 9, so that's 7 more. That's 17 of your 19 turnovers from your starters. It's hard to win when your starting lineup isn't good. Jeff Weltman said this, like the playoffs are your 5 best guys versus the other 5 best guys as much as you can. It's hard to win when your starting lineup doesn't play well together. And it's not that the starting lineup played so poorly together. They were good in the first half. They were really bad in the second half. But, Desmond Bane could get free. Detroit was, I think, very focused on stopping him. A couple of big plays at the rim where Bane just missed layups. He had a layup blocked by Asar Thompson. He did some good stuff around the basket. The guy snuck in on cuts and used the pressure against them to get to the basket. But again, the Magic just could not get him free because, again, everything was kind of stuck in Paolo's hands because Detroit was doing a really good job taking it out of his hands. And when it's out of his hands, it needs to be in Desmond's hands. And Des was getting assists, but not really doing much else. Jalen Suggs in his second game back really struggled. 14 points. He was plus the Magic were +2 in his minutes, but I did not think Jalen played a good game. 4 for 17 from the floor, 4 for 13 from 3. If you're going to take 13 threes, you got to make them. If you're not Desmond Bane. He was confident in shooting them, took some bad threes, took some rush threes. Again, it's like I said after Thursday's game. There's just like this emotion with Jalen Suggs. And when he lets the emotional side of him win, that's when things get really bad. And no one is trying to hit home runs more than Jalen Suggs. And that was part of the struggle. Again, like he's not getting the primary defensive assignments yet. Cade, he was not on Cade for most of this night. Most of this night, Paolo was on Cade. He was on Tobias Harris for most of the night. And again, just struggled with the size. So it's just not a lot working for him there. Just not a lot working for him. Wendell Carter continues to struggle. He was 0 for 2 from 3, 4 points, 9 rebounds, 2 for 6 shooting. Again, like Carter just goes through these wild swings. And, look, that is an area the Magic probably do need to upgrade. They need more consistency on offense from him, especially if he's going to be a shooter. Just not giving the Magic the outlet. Excuse me. Just not giving the Magic the outlet that they need offensively. He's supposed to be a safety valve, and it's just not there. Like I mentioned earlier, only 14 points off the bench for the Magic. They got 2 points from Javon Carter, 1 for 6, 0 for 3. Look, Javon Carter does some really, really good things. He's a dog defensively. His only basket came off a steal, and then he got a breakaway dunk in the first half. But sometimes I feel like Javon Carter thinks he's the main character of the story, and he's not. And so I question some of his shot selection at times. There's not a lot going there. Jett Howard failed to score in his 13 minutes. Jonathan Isaac hit 3 points. Didn't really play a lot. Mo Wagner finished with 9 points. Big part of the second quarter that gave the Magic the lead. Heading into the locker room, just made a lot of just really nice plays around the basket. Not as much of a factor in the second half, but Magic didn't lose his minutes, gave some energy, helped them kind of get back in the game and stay in this into the fourth quarter. But again, just there's not enough scoring. Look, at the end of the day, like Orlando shot 10 for 36 from 3. So, they made 6 more threes than Detroit. They did that job. They're 24 for 30 from the foul line. So 6 opportunities there missed. 29 for 77 from the floor, 37.7%. At the end of the day, missed too many shots, didn't get to the paint enough. They got outscored 66-32 in the paint. Remember, when the paint won the game. 19 turnovers were 26 points. So those 26 points off turnovers were 26 gifted points in a game that they score only 106 points. That means they're only really getting 80 points outside of transition play and outside of kind of giving away possessions. Pistons had 19 fast break points. So again, 100. That's we talk about that. That's 106 minus 19 is 87. The Magic's defense did a job. When the Magic could get set up and lock in, they did a job. When they were stuck in transition, when they were caught, after a turnover, after a mistake, Detroit beat them. And that's what good teams do. Good teams make you pay for your mistakes. And the Magic made too many mistakes. So that's the Pistons. Not, again, probably a loss on your ledger. Like like I had, if you follow me on my Patreon, I predicted every game coming out of the All-Star break. I had the Magic at 3-3 through 6 games. I am not surprised the Magic are where they're at. I think their move is coming a little bit later on in the month, like mid to late March. They're still in kind of a tricky spot in the schedule. They got to take care of their business the next 2 games. They got to close this homestand with wins over the Wizards and the Mavericks, and then we'll see what they can do in Minnesota against a very up and down Minnesota team that's playing very, very well right now, and then against Milwaukee on the road in a very big game to just kind of put the Bucks away and win that season series #1. But put the Bucks away and say, no, you're not getting the 7 seed. Just stay in your little corner there at the bottom of the play-in tournament. But the Pistons defeat the Magic 106-92. Orlando back in action Tuesday against the Washington Wizards here at the Kia Center. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Hemlock, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of the places you download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can check us out on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicGala.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicGala. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. And be sure to check out our Everydayer Club. Get access to an ad-free audio feed of this podcast, as well as access to the Locked On Discord server to chat with other Magic and NBA fans. Check that out and learn more at lockedonmagic.supercast.com. That's lockedonmagic.supercast.com. As always, thank you for your support. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA, where they talk about a busy Sunday in the NBA. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Locked On Magic. Until then, from the Kia Center, this is Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.